Amonkhet is a vast desert plain that is host to an interesting curse. Anything that dies there may rise as an undead. These accursed wander from miles around towards one location, Naktamun, the last refuge for humans protected by the water barrier Hekma, made from the banks of the river Luxa. It's a beautiful city, overseen by its gods, beloved by their people, always willing to undertake the trials in their names. Oketra, the god of solidarity, Kefnet, the god of knowledge, Bontu, the god of ambition, Hazret, the god of zeal, and mighty Ronus, god of strength, stood against those of the Chitin Court and their endless ranks of undead as protectors. This is Amonkhet as we understood it before Nicol Bolas arrived, seeking a material native to the plane called Lazatep for how it worked when used in necromancy, and sought to take over the plane to acquire it. The five gods stood alongside three members of the Chitin Court in a rare act of solidarity, but it wasn't enough. Bontu betrayed her own people as she allowed Bolas to breach the Hekma after a prolonged siege, and once he was in, he vaporized everyone old enough to walk. Weakened, captured, and brainwashed into serving out Bolas's great plan to raise an army, Bolas left Bontu in charge of maintaining the corruption of Ronus, Oketra, Hazret, and Kefnet, and together, the five gods of Amonkhet would be charged with the raising of an entire generation of people using the remains of their ancestors. They would have to grow up quick, for the trials that awaited them were now purposefully made to kill them. Trials of the gods that were re-engineered by Bolas to train the people of Naktamun, starting with initiates as young as 5 years old. With each trial completed, the initiate would be given a cartouche that, when all five were collected, would preserve their essence in the afterlife. Only the worthiest could complete the trials of combat, just to have the honor of being executed by Hazret in secret. They were then carried off to the gates of the afterlife, coded in Lazatep, and left to rest until such time that Bolas had returned. Those who failed died and were afflicted by the curse. They were then embalmed and anointed, forced to serve the living using specially made cartouches, and you guessed it, to mine Lazatep. The fates of the worthy were kept secret from the people to keep them happily training, harvesting Lazatep. Much of Amonkhet's pre-Bolas history has been lost to time, manipulated and co-opted to depict Bolas as the god pharaoh, their savior. Bolas would return with the approach of the second sun that was set to bring an end to the constant days and bring back the night. This would be their hour of devastation. When Bolas arrived, the gates to the afterlife were opened, and out poured the worthy Eternals, all the initiate's friends, some seen as recently as that day. But things would only get worse as the Chitin Court members that were sealed away were unleashed as well, and those three would tear through Naktamun and cause catastrophic damage to the Hekma, and in short order Kefnet and Oketra, Ronus, slain by the Scorpion God. Bontu was sent to capture Hazret, and when Bontu brought her sister before Bolas, he tried to kill both of them. He managed to get Bontu, but Hazret escaped. Left to her world crumbling, Hazret took what survivors she could and escaped into the desert. With Naktamun abandoned, the city became a staging ground for the War of the Spark, until its liberation thanks to a number of planeswalkers and leading the two remaining lords of the Chitin Court back into the desert. With the Hekma restored, the survivors and their grieving god would rebuild their city, only to not long after be invaded yet again, this time by the new Phyrexians. Vorinclex's copper host terraformed large swaths of the desert with Phyrexian flora, which ultimately proved fruitless as it was simply swallowed by the sands and just unleashed new necropoli. When defense of Naktamun was needed yet again, the Chitin Court joined forces with Hazret to repel the last of their forces, and then retreated peacefully into the Broken Lands. The Luxa flooded, washing away a lot of Phyrexian debris and wreckage that was left. Rebuilding began again in force, with both the living and the dead that were freed from their bindings and allowed to live among the people as equals with the living. Together, all would preserve Naktamun, and the undead took on a respected role in Naktamun society. They were guardians. They were teachers. From ruins, the city rose, with Hazret leading small bands of scouts into the Broken Lands, and new means of trade from the Omen Paths. The city flourished. As a plus from the Luxa flooding, Naktamun was flush with life all its own, and then, of all things that could happen, new gods emerged. First, Sabsunin, god of the Luxa, who herself walked right out of the Luxa, and the other from reeds nearby the river. Born from the determination of the people to live, Ketramos came to be, and he took up Oketra's bow. Well, Ketramos does mean son of Oketra, so. Temples were raised in their honor right before the start of the second Ghirapur Grand Prix, which ran right through the city, and who else would win but Ketramos' own champion, Basri-Ket. Amonkhet has come a long way as a plane. In many ways, the city has carved out its own peaceful coexistence with the undead they once took for granted. A new dawn rises on Amonkhet, and for the city of Naktamun, a brighter tomorrow.